The table booked in my name. The first time the restaurant called to confirm, I thought it was a wrong number. "Mr. Vale, your table for two this Thursday at 9:15. The voice was crisp, sanded smooth by practice. I told her I hadn't made a reservation. She apologized as if she'd spilled water, checked again, and read the note attached to the booking. "Corner banquet, low light, no photos, birthday." I almost laughed. My birthday is in June. The call came in November when even the river forgot to shine. We'd always been the couple who overtipped after late dinners because kindness tastes better if someone else gets to keep it. Elena worked in brand strategy, which is the art of making a room want what it already wants. I wrote copy for products with names more confident than their use. In the early months, we watched night storms from the window, a blanket over both our knees, the city's rain writing thin lines down glass. She slept with her hand on my ribs, fingers spread, a habit her mother had when she laid prayers on door frames. I ironed pillowcases because flat cotton felt like a way to make ordinary choose us. The drift began quietly. Scent first. Her rosemary traded itself for something with a mineral heart and a citrus top, like someone had bottled ambition. Then sound. Her phone learned a two-note chime like a small doorbell, ringing at 12:06 and again at 12:11, and the screen would light our dark in the way lightning pretends it doesn't mean anything. "London," she said when I asked, and I nodded as if time zones could tell the truth better than mouths. She showered in the dark. "Migraine." I learned to shave by memory. The restaurant was called El Arc, new enough to have a wait list, old enough to act bored about it. The confirmation used my full name, middle initial and all. I played with the idea that a friend was being generous until the second call came 2 weeks later, same ritual. "Thursday, 9:15, table 21 by the wine wall, no photos. Would you like to make a note of a special occasion?" the woman offered. "Not yet," I said, and wrote a note for myself instead. "Check the wine wall." I could have asked Elena. Instead, I did the thing frightened men do and became useful. I replaced the filter in the tap. I tightened the wobbly kitchen chair. I moved money into a savings account with a nickname only I understood. I made soup that takes most of a day and pays you back in steam. She walked in mid-simmer, hair in a knot, cheeks bright from indoor weather, kissed my cheek accurately, and told me a story about a client who wanted a new logo that was really just permission to start over. "We could go to the coast this weekend," I said, stirring. "Let be the only people who call it winter." She smiled with most of her mouth. "I have a strategy sprint," she said. "Everything is sprinting." It wasn't a single treachery. It was a sequence of small permissions. A navy blazer too sharp for our budget appeared on the chair by the door. "Borrowed," she said. A lipstick the color of late cherries showed up in the bathroom, the name printed on the tube, Ember. "Gift bag," she said. The two-note doorbell chimed more often, and she moved toward it the way people move toward a staircase they can climb without looking. I started a folder on my laptop named Spoon so if she saw it, it would look harmless. Inside it, I put what felt like cutlery, screenshots of bank charges, a photo of a matchbook from Elark that fell from her coat pocket, a scan of a receipt for 2 cocktails with sea salt rims, time-stamped on a Thursday when we ate at home, and she said she was too tired for dessert. I added a picture of a cufflink I found under the passenger seat, gunmetal with a small mother-of-pearl disc. I held it up to my eye and saw my face round and wrong in it. The week of the third confirmation, I called a lawyer whose office lives above a cobbler. Her waiting room smells like wet leather and old paper. She listened while I lost my nouns and then asked, like a tailor measuring, "Outcome or scene?" "Outcome," I said, surprising us both. "Then you need boring things," she said. "Dates, doors, dollars, screenshots if you have them. Witnesses, not heroes. No literature by text. Judges have allergies." I took my complicated heart and sat it beside the list. I invited witnesses who love me in ways that don't require applause. Elena's sister Myra, who has the spine of a bridge, and my friend Dan, who silently moves furniture when your life does. I told them I had good news, Dan's promotion, because people arrive gentler if they think they're bringing a toast. I booked a table at Elark for the same time as the Phantom reservations, and used my own name because somebody had been doing it for months. "Corner banquet?" the host asked. "Yes," I said, and heard my voice not shake. I put on the suit jacket that fits when I am trying to be better than myself, and slipped the cufflink into my pocket because it felt like bad and good luck at once. Elark smelled like thyme and expensive air, lamps shaded to make everyone look warmed by intention. The wine wall was a glass spine holding bottles like poems in a language I couldn't speak. We were on time, which meant we were invisible. At 9:22, Elena walked in with a man 30 seconds behind her, not holding hands, which is the most together a certain kind of couple ever is in public. He wore slate and the posture of someone whose messages are always answered. She turned to the host with her chin lifted, and the host smiled like recognition is a tip. I watched the host peel 2 menus from the stack and lead them to table 21 by the wine wall, the table my name had been warming for them. Myra's hand touched my arm under the table like you touch a flight attendant's sleeve when you're braver with witnesses. Dan cleared his throat and muttered, "We can leave. Say the word." I didn't leave. I watched through glass reflections and the gentle distortions of pretend privacy. The man spoke close. Elena leaned closer. The sommelier poured wine the color of patience. She tipped her head back and laughed like her throat had just been given permission. I felt the 2-note chime in my bones, and then in the room when her phone lit briefly, face down, as if even the device knew how to collude. I didn't go to their table. I didn't perform morality. I asked for the check and thanked the staff as if this had been an ordinary meal in a city that is always teaching people how to eat in front of each other. Outside, the pavement had that clean, wet shine that makes every street feel intimate. Dan clapped my shoulder and said nothing. Myra looked at the door of Elark like it was a mouth and said, "Tell me when." I said, "Sunday dinner." You cannot carry anger all week without it trying to renovate your body. I ran by the river until my lungs felt rinsed with pennies, then water. I ironed pillowcases until the cotton remembered. I put the matchbook on the counter and didn't strike it because fire belongs to other stories. Elena came home late and kissed me like an apology she was paying in installments. "Long?" I asked. "Long," she said. "Dishwashers at the office are always breaking." "That's what offices are for," I answered, and hated myself for being both cruel and precise. On Sunday, with the city practicing its best winter light, I cooked too much and opened wine that promised stone fruit and delivered a grown-up sweetness. At 7:43 came the text, 15 minutes. At 8:11 she arrived with the brightness of a woman who believes in her wardrobe. She kissed me in front of them with accurate affection and set her phone face down. We ate like amateurs at Joy. After dessert, I placed the cufflink and the matchbook on the table, then the card from Elark with my name on a reservation, and watched reflections move across her face like small weather. "What's this?" she asked, and her voice tried on steadiness like a dress she wanted to fit. "Lost and found," I said, because I had to start somewhere. Myra didn't look at Elena. She looked at me, which is the only reason I remained an animal and not a storm. Dan's hands were flat on the table, the international sign for a man putting his tools away. "We should talk privately," Elena said. "We will," I said, "but I need witnesses that I still exist." It was theatrical. I earned the wince. They left. We were 2 people at a table with proof and cutlery. "I used your name for the table because it kept things easy," she said. "The staff, if they know a name, they treat you like you're inevitable." Is he married? I asked, because ghosts deserve a condition. Separating, she said. One child, a girl. Do you love him? I asked, and the word did what it always does. It ate all the air in the room and asked for more. She looked at the wine wall as if a bottle might translate her. I love the person I become when he looks at me like I don't have a history, she said. I love not being the archivist of what I once promised. She looked back at me, and her eyes were so clear it felt like treason. I love you like a house, she said, but I started living in the hallway because I liked the echo. We're going to separate, I said. I used we like a lever because the singular felt like a fall. She nodded and breathed out like elevators do when you get off. Do you want me to go now? She asked. I want you to stop making two rooms out of one small place, I said. Pick. I'll pick the other. The mechanics of leaving are unromantic. She packed with the speed of a person who had already packed twice in her head. She took the navy blazer and one sweater and the candle that made the air behave. She left the iron, which felt like a sly joke. At the door she lifted her hand toward my wrist, thumb tipped to press the old code, press, release, but dropped it before contact, the kindest and worst thing she could have done. I was happy, she said, and greedy, and sometimes afraid. You were human, I said, so am I. He wrote once, as scripts demand. A corporate email about respect and timing and proceeding like gentlemen, which made me want to send him every sharp object in my kitchen with a note. Learn the difference between a door and a mouth. I forwarded the message to my lawyer and to Dan, who replied with 3 words: block, breathe, boil. I boiled water until the windows fogged and the apartment's edges returned without my help. The nights after held a quiet that needed teaching. The bed learned my shape, the sheets wrinkled and I let them. The 2-note phantoms chimed in my head and then stopped when I stopped listening for them. I changed the Wi-Fi password to a sentence about bridges and motion and wrote it on a post-it like a prayer that didn't need a pulpit. I ran until the river stopped pretending to be silver and became water again. Once, because the mind loves clean ends, I went back to Elark and sat at the bar across from the wine wall and ordered the cheapest beer they were ashamed to pour. Couples practiced wanting politely. The host greeted a man whose coat said power and led him to table 21 with a smile that felt practiced enough to be kind. I finished the beer and left a preposterous tip and didn't look over my shoulder. The decree arrived on a Wednesday like bad weather on good paper. I didn't burn anything. I cleaned the stove's black corners. I put fresh sheets on the bed and ironed the pillowcases until they lay like small promises. I set the matchbook in the drawer with the batteries and the tape measure until it was only a striker and a small packet of sulfur, not a thesis. I wrapped the cufflink in tissue paper and dropped it into a donation jar at a thrift store. It made a polite clink that sounded like punctuation. She texted that afternoon, "Thank you for not making me the worst thing I did." I stared at the screen until the words lost their oars and then wrote back, "Thank you for not asking me to dine in 2 rooms at once." She sent a picture of a rented place with a window like a square of sky and a plant trying. I sent the river behaving. We didn't flirt. We traded weather and stopped when the forecast was clear. Desire doesn't vanish, it adapts. Some nights I remember her knee hooked behind my leg, the soft vowel she made when my hand found the place her breath turned to heat. Memory is accurate and unkind. I let it visit and then let it out like a guest who's learned not to overstay. I make toast. I stand at the window. The city forgives itself for being itself. Weeks thinned into a shape I could wear. I ironed on Sundays because flat cotton still felt like respect, only this time it was respect paid forward. I wrote my name on a notepad and said it out loud once in the morning before coffee, not because I was afraid I'd forget but because I wanted to hear it commit. I bought a basil plant and overwatered it and then learned restraint. It survived. which felt like cooperation. The last time I saw her, the elevator had co-conspired to make us arrive on the same floor at the same second. She wore a coat the color of decisions. We said hello in the way neighbors practice. She asked about the plant and I said alive, and she smiled at the fact rather than the sentiment. She adjusted the strap on her bag and didn't touch my wrist. I admired her kindness and then admired my own. Sometimes, when night is clean and the refrigerator hums like a faithful engine, I think about table 21 by the wine wall, about how a host somewhere is learning to pronounce another man's name with a smile. I consider calling Elark and booking a table in my name for Thursday at 9:15, then showing up alone and ordering the cheapest thing they hate to serve. I imagine the wine wall reflecting me back, one man at a small table practicing the essential trick of staying. I don't call, I cook. I salt the water until the steam smells like a coastline I can afford. I eat standing at the counter because some luxuries are private. When I sleep now, the two-note phantom is silent. If I wake at 12:11, I press my thumb to my wrist where her old code used to land and listen. Pulse says here, here, here without adjectives. In the morning I open the window, let the city enter without pretending to be anything but cold and real, and I choose a shirt, an answer, a next step. The day asks if I have a reservation and I say yes. Under my name, one seat, corner table, no photos. And the host, who is only a voice in my head, smiles like recognition is a tip and leads me to a room I've already learned how to inhabit alone.